Somewhere on Earth presently, a human is looking at a wild animal and quietly rewriting reality. A raccoon digging through trash becomes clever. A fox crossing a road becomes curious. A wolf, glimpsed through glass or distance, becomes something closer to a misunderstood dog. People don't just observe animals. They imagine them as something familiar. And yet, most of these animals have never been domesticated. They have never lived alongside humans, never adapted to human rules, never agreed to coexistence. But here's what's strange. Humans behave as if they could. Long before cities, fences, or ownership, humans lived in a world where every moving thing mattered. There were no clear boundaries between species. No distinction between wild and domestic. There was only movement in the grass. Eyes in the dark. Tracks in the mud that might lead to food, or something that considered you food. Survival depended on reading animals correctly. A grazing herd meant safety. A fleeing bird meant danger. A predator that tolerated your presence just barely could mean opportunity. Humans didn't just watch animals. They learned them. They followed them. They predicted them. And, over time, in rare and fragile circumstances, they began to live beside them. This wasn't friendship. It was negotiation. And it changed everything. The earliest domestication events were not acts of control. They were accidents that worked. A less aggressive wolf lingers near a human camp. It feeds on scraps. It learns that proximity is safer than distance. Humans, in turn, learn that this animal can warn them, protect them, assist them. Over generations, tolerance becomes cooperation. Cooperation becomes dependence. Dependence becomes domestication. But this process is extraordinarily rare. Out of millions of species, only a small fraction ever made that transition. Because domestication requires something very specific. An animal must tolerate humans, reproduce in captivity, accept hierarchy, and adapt to confinement. Most animals cannot. And yet, the human brain behaves as if many more could. This is where perception begins to drift from reality. Humans evolved to detect patterns in behavior. If something moves like you, looks at you, responds to you, your brain begins to categorize it as understandable. Familiar. Predictable. Safe enough. This tendency once helped humans survive. Recognizing intention in another creature could mean the difference between cooperation and conflict. But the system has a flaw. It overextends. A deer pauses and looks back. A human sees curiosity. A big cat stretches lazily in the sun. A human sees relaxation. A bear stands upright. A human sees something almost human. The brain fills in the gaps, with itself. But that's still not the whole story. Humans are not just observers. They are social organisms built on connection. Touch, proximity, shared space. These are not optional behaviors. They are fundamental to how humans build trust and meaning. So when an animal appears calm, expressive, or responsive, something shifts. It stops being an animal. It becomes a potential relationship. Not because it has changed, but because the human brain has reclassified it. And then there is familiarity. Dogs, cats, livestock species that have already crossed the boundary into domestication shape expectations. A dog looks at a human and responds. A cat tolerates proximity. A horse accepts direction. These animals train the human mind to believe. Connection is possible. Understanding is possible. Control is possible. So when a human encounters a wild animal that shares even a few of these traits, eyes that track movement, bodies that mirror emotion, behaviors that seem readable, the brain applies the same model. Incorrectly. But that's still not the whole story. Humans are drawn to reducing uncertainty. A wild animal represents unpredictability. And unpredictability creates tension. One way the brain resolves the tension is by simplifying the unknown. Turning wild into manageable. Turning dangerous into misunderstood. Turning unfamiliar into almost domestic. It is not an accurate interpretation. It is a comfortable one. Now place this instinct into the modern world. Humans no longer grow up surrounded by constant risk. Predators are distant. Food is reliable. Survival rarely depends on reading animals correctly. But the instincts remain. Only now, they operate without the same consequences guiding them. Zoos, wildlife parks, viral videos, curated encounters. All create environments where wild animals appear controlled. Contained. Safe. A lion behind glass looks calm. A handler standing nearby suggests authority. A video of a person interacting with a wild animal suggests possibility. The brain receives incomplete information and fills in the rest. This is where the system begins to fail. Because the animal has not changed. It has not agreed to domestication. It has not reclassified the human. It remains what it always was. Responsive to instinct. Sensitive to threat. Capable of sudden, irreversible decisions. The human, however, is operating on a different model. A model built on familiarity, projection, and misplaced confidence. This mismatch is where problems begin. Step back, and a pattern emerges. Most animals interact primarily within their own species. Their social structures, communication, and trust systems are narrowly defined. Humans are different. They extend social frameworks outward across species boundaries, across environments, across contexts where they do not fully apply. They imagine connection where none was established. They assume understanding where none exists. They see potential domestication where evolution never allowed it. And so, the behavior continues. A person watches a wild animal and sees not what it is, but what it could be. Something familiar. Something approachable. Something, perhaps, not so different. And somewhere, at this exact moment, a human is standing just a little too close to something wild. Quietly wondering if, given enough time, it might become something else.